And let me tell you, left to his own devices, he would have popped the question over a dead body or during a street brawl. Tell me, where did he do it? Kensington Gardens?
In March of 2025, my co-writer and tech guy Bernie Gabin and I got a chance to visit London. And while we were there, we made sure to check out Kensington Gardens, seeing as that is smack dab in the neighborhood where we always imagined Mrs. Hawking living. We jumped at the chance to check out some of the Victorian-era monuments in that park that would have been part of our characters' everyday lives.
Dun, dun, dun,
Boom, 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 boom.
The Prince Consort, House of Saxe-Gotha-Coburg. So I am here at the Albert Memorial in Kensington Gardens. Albert Prince Consort passed away in 1861 to the great grief of the nation in general, because he was a very popular prince, and of course to his beloved Queen Victoria, who absolutely adored him.
A woman of whims and rages whose life was so built around her husband she'd keep the entire nation frozen in grief for 20 years after.
And, you know, if she put up with having 9 kids, she must have liked him a whole lot. I thought that this was an interesting artifact of Mrs. Hawking's daily life here in the neighborhood. She was probably very annoyed when something like this went up to huge expense.
I mean to tear down the crumbling walls of life and not shore them back up.
If you look at it, it's, you know, pretty elaborate. I see a lot of gilding. It is in the Gothic Revival style. It has some charmingly colonialist and imperial tributes to the various continents upon which the empire spread. Look at all the beautiful stacked naked people that my husband commands. And it's quite beautiful. Some of the symbolism is a little troubling.
These people have fled war, disease, famine, all the violence of the colony.
And this, by the time our story started, this had been around and finished for about 4 years. So our characters would have walked past this as they go through the park.
Oh, hello, Mary.
Oh, Mr. Hawking, hello. You headed our way?
I just thought I'd pop in on you and Aunt Victoria.
And I think they would have spent a fair bit of time here because it's so close to the neighborhood and it's, you know, been a public green space for centuries now. And there's a matching statue of Victoria that we're going to go and try and spot elsewhere in the park. So it was probably something that our characters walked past on a regular basis, and some of them may have had some strong feelings about at times.
Next, we headed for Kensington Palace, a family home of the ruling monarch, to find the other statue.
So here we are at the Queen Victoria statue, also in the park. This one is interesting because this was not made as a memorial. It was depicted during the Queen's lifetime. It was made in 1893, which was, you know, very much toward the end of our story. And it was designed actually by Queen Victoria's daughter, this was the Princess Louise, who was, you know, a fairly celebrated sculptor in her own right. And she was persuaded to anonymously enter a bid to design this sculpture. It was kind of an open bid process for this. And she submitted anonymously, and her model was selected. And I think it's really notable to think of this as, you know, an image of a mother through a daughter's eyes.
You may as well be her lapdog.
She has need of me. I have no choice.
Like a lot of the time when we see images of royals, you know, it's entirely through the lens of, you know, their role in history or their social power or something. But it's kind of neat to think of this as somebody who had an alternative way of looking at the Queen. And I also think it's striking that she chose to depict her at her coronation at age 18 as a young woman, even though this was made toward the end of Victoria's life. And it's a relatively, there is a majesty to it, but it's a relatively human depiction. Like, she's not necessarily, you know, sort of garbed in the clothes of the Empire of England.
Governor's girl.
Hero's wife.
Daughter of empire.
I think it contrasts interestingly to the memorial in front of Buckingham Palace, which was commissioned by, you know, one of her other children, then King Edward VII. And that's all about the power of empire. It has Regina Imperatrix carved on it, and it shows all of the different, symbolic images of the wealth and power and majesty of her role. But this one just, it focuses on a fairly human depiction of the queen.
But enough of this. What do you want?
And I think it's neat that outside of Kensington Palace, which was a place where, the family lived, where Princess Louisa lived, there's this relatively human and modest depiction of her mother outside.
And if you'd like to see how the royals factor into our latest story, Fallen Women, you can watch the whole show here on our YouTube channel, @Mrs. Hawking.